It was E3 this month and there's a shit ton to talk about, so there's not really need for an intro. So E3 happened. I watched all of it, basically. I think I watched pretty much everything. I wrote down a list of every single thing I watched, and I'm going to go through it now just to make sure. I watched the Summer Game Fest, Day of the Devs, Guerrilla Collective 1, Guerrilla Collective 2, the Wholesome Direct, IGN Fest, Devolver, Ubisoft, Tribeca Games, Upload VR, Microsoft, Square Enix, the Back for Blood thing, PC Gaming Show, the Future Games Show, the Intellivision Show, the Mythical Games Show, the Indie Showcase, the Freedom Games Showcase, Limited Run Games, Capcom, Razer, the Nintendo Direct, and the thing for Bandai Namco. It was 20 hours of stuff? I watched all of it. There was a lot of good stuff, and a lot of not very interesting things. I think most of the big shows were kind of boring. Everyone was talking about how great the Microsoft show was, and it was maybe it was good compared to the others, but there was very little there I was interested in. The Nintendo Direct is still probably the best one. But that's kind of generally true. I don't think E3 was bad by any means. I just think if you only pay attention to the big shows, you're gonna maybe not be let down, but there wasn't really much there. There certainly wasn't much that I cared about. I will say though, that I enjoy E3 a hell of a lot more when I don't talk to other people about it. Because it seems whenever I talk to other people about it, they're mostly just very down on it. They're always complaining about how bad it is. And I'm like, no, it was fine. It didn't have things I really wanted, but it was fine. It was a show where they announced games. I think the Take-Two show, which I tried to watch a bit of, but was literally just some people interviewing each other. That was probably the worst show. Oh, I've just remembered on the list, I did watch the Gearbox thing. That was fucking weird as well. There's weird bits where Randy was talking to staff of the film and it felt really forced all the time, but people complained about the Bandai Namco thing because they said that it would be all about one thing, and then it happened and it was all about one thing and people didn't like it. And I was like, it's exactly what they said it was going to be. Granted, it wasn't the one thing people thought it might have been. It was a completely different one thing. It was, God, what's it called? It's that horror anthology series they've got that looks so boring. But whatever, it was that. And people were hoping it'd be Elden Ring. But it was pretty much exactly what they said it was going to be, so while I didn't particularly enjoy it, I wasn't let down by it. It was just what it was supposed to be. But I feel like if I had been talking to other people about it at the same time and they would have been dead down on it, that would have just brought my opinions down on a lot of stuff. I don't mind talking to people about it after everything's finished, but especially while it's going on, people get so wrapped up in it all and so very upset about everything. I just don't feel it's worth it. I feel like it's a lot more enjoyable when you sort of distance yourself from the overall discourse and then just get in afterwards when you've got clear opinions on stuff. So I made a list of games that I cared about. There was about 38 of them, and it was almost entirely indie stuff. There is 9 non-indie games, and everything else was an indie game. I'm going to go through those 9 first, probably because you're familiar with them, and because I feel like they won't need a lot of explanation as to why I care. Then I've got a section of stuff that looks interesting, but I don't have super strong opinions on either way. And then I've got the last 4, and the last 4 are the ones I really want to talk about, and they're the ones I really cared about. They're not necessarily all good, as we now know, but I did care about them all. So first we had 12 Minutes, which was at the Tribeca Games Festival thing. I know that they showed this off last year, and it looked really interesting then, and I didn't know all the different actors and actresses who were in it. So it was weird, because it kept saying that they were in it, and I was like, it doesn't sound anything like them. But whatever, I think it looks pretty good. It looks interesting at least. Though there hasn't really been much more revealed this year than last, except now we have the release date. There was also Kenna, the Bridge of Spirits, which was supposed to have already come out by now and then got delayed, didn't it? I think that looks really good. I don't know exactly how much I care. I feel like it looks really good. And there were especially bits in the trailer where the music works so well with the visuals that I'm like just intrigued based on that. But it being like the first game from that studio, like I'm kind of worried that because they were so familiar with the filmmaking and animation process, I worry that they have gone very heavy on the stuff that they know, and there's not going to be a whole much there in like the sort of like actual game mechanic sort of way. I'm hoping I'm wrong, because it looks really good. Like it has a really good aesthetic. And its sound design seems really good. So I'm like hopeful for it, but not totally sure. There was the Death Stranding Director's Cut announced, which it's now got a yellow filter. It looks fine. It's Death Stranding. I really like Death Stranding. I'm probably not going to get it. Hopefully it'll be like, just like I'll be able to get it as an update for my original Death Stranding. I'm not going to buy the game again. Like I don't do that. Diablo 2. I'm interested in Diablo 2. I like those sorts of games, though I've never really gotten particularly deep into any of them. I would like to play a bit of it. I don't know how much I care, because I'm also like not super into Blizzard stuff. But I like that sort of thing. Shin Megami Tensei 5 finally got like a proper trailer. And that looks good, but I'm probably not going to get it, because I also don't like... I played some of 4, and I kind of like the gameplay, but I don't like negotiating with the demons. And that is like a core aspect of the game. And I just don't enjoy it. Like, I don't like losing resources with the hope of getting something and then quite often not getting it. Like, it never felt worth it to me, which meant I was like not ever really that powerful, and I didn't play the game very much because of that, so I feel like I'm not going to like it very much in this either. At the same time, I am intrigued. I would like to play it, but I don't think I actually will. Metroid Dread got announced, which I don't think anyone saw coming. I'm kind of hoping that with this being announced and with it coming out quite soon, it comes out in like October, doesn't it? I'm hoping that they'll port Metroid 2 Remake to Switch, because I would like to play that, but I have no interest in playing it on a 3DS. But Dread looks cool, although the stuff that you saw in the trailer, like, it looks like they kind of have like clear delineations between the sections where you're being chased versus the sections where you're not, which I can understand. I feel like it's going to be more like short periods of intense tension and then long periods without any, versus like a sort of like consistent low level at all times. It looks neat. I'm just not sure. They showed off the trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. It looks like more Breath of the Wild, but with Sky now. I don't know. You will know my opinion on Breath of the Wild as it is. So I will get it, and I will play it, and I will probably enjoy it to some extent, and also think it's not as good as it should be. Hopefully it has actual dungeons, but we didn't see anything like that, did we? The new sort of time powers looked cool, and the weird moving into water shit. I don't really know how to describe it. But where he like phased through a platform, that was... I don't think anyone would have expected that. But there was Elden Ring, which exists apparently and is coming out quite soon. You know, relatively compared to the last time we actually heard anything about it. It looks like a Dark Souls. It looks like a From Software game. I'm going to buy it. Hopefully I like this one more than I like Sekiro, because I barely played Sekiro. I think they said that there was going to be actual leveling and stuff in this again, so I will probably play more of it. Though, I'm feeling kind of burnt out on the entire genre, so I'm not really sure. I have bought quite a few similar Souls-likes, and I always play them for like a couple of hours, and I'm always like, yeah, this is really good, and then I just never go back to it. Like, I really enjoyed Demon's Souls, what I played of it, and then just immediately stopped. And I really enjoyed Hellpoint, what I played of it, and then immediately stopped. And, like, there's something about those games where I have this, like, weird, like, tension just from the idea of playing the game. And unless I can get over that, I never play them. Because, like, I enjoy it while I play, but the idea of playing it puts me off. I think it's because they're always so vague. Like, I get that that's part of it, but it's like, it's not the dying and stuff like that doesn't bother me. It's the, like, not really fully understanding how things are going to go, and, like, the sort of fear of missing stuff because of that. Like the stuff with... God, what's he called? I want to say Oswald. Yes. The stuff with Oswald in Demon Souls. The fact that you can fuck that up by not being in an area, like, that really puts me off. And it's that sort of thing that puts me off playing the game as a whole. Like, it's like this extra level of stress on top of the... Like, there's like the difficulty stress of the game, and I can deal with that, and then there's the extra level of stress of, if I fuck up slightly, it ruins entire aspects of the game to me. It's actually the same thing that put me off playing Sekiro. I just don't have any interest in that. Hopefully, I mean, Elden Ring's gonna have stuff like that, isn't it? But at the same time, I can say hopefully it won't, but I don't hope, because I'm already sure it will. And the last game on my list of things you will probably already know is that there's an Advance Wars remake, and I am well excited for that. The only thing that puts me off is that apparently it's like 60 quid already, and that is a lot. Like, granted, it's 2 games, but it's remakes of 2 games from like nearly 20 years ago. I really enjoy them both, but I could also just go back and play them. Like, I didn't lose them, they're on my shelf. I really like them, but don't know if playing them on the Switch is worth that much to me. But the very idea of them getting a remake is worth a lot to me. So I might end up buying them anyway, but I don't know, it's really going to depend on if I can afford it or not, because I'm very excited. I spent a lot of time with the Advance Wars games when I was younger. Like, all of them. I remember Days of Ruin being weird because of the art style change. But I really enjoyed those games when they first... Well, if not when they first came out, quite soon after they came out. Just want to play them more now. Just like the fact that they're getting remakes has made me want to play them again. But that's what I say, like, is it worth me buying the remakes, or shall I just go play them, like, on my Game Boy Advance? Or probably on my DS, just for the sake of it being nicer to look at. As for the indie games, here is 23 indie games that I thought looked cool. I've got some thoughts on some of them, and not much on others, so these are going to be quite rapid fire. First is Phantom Abyss, which actually just came out into early access, I think today or yesterday, one of the two. I think it looks cool. I'm kind of unclear on some of the ideas of it, where they said that there's like a level and you can attempt it once, and then if you die, you can't attempt it again, but also that they're going to be available for like a month, and then the first person who does it completes it and it's never done again. And I'm a bit confused on how both of those can be true. Are they just going to have like a shit ton of levels in rotation at any one time? Like, I suppose that's probably how they'll do it, but like, not totally clear on that. The gameplay looked at least somewhat interesting, but I feel like it's going to be weird because like you're not going to be able to like learn huge amounts if you're only able to go through it once. It feels like it's going to be, a lot of it is going to be down to luck rather than skill. Unless the tile sets are all like incredibly familiar, and especially because they said it was like randomly generated levels, which I'm sure they're doing just for the sheer, like, so they can have loads of them. But the combination of all 3 of those aspects is weird. I feel like I would have any one of 2 of them, but all 3 seems too much. Like, handcrafted levels that you can only attempt once and then get locked after a while. I can understand that. Or random levels that lock it off after the first person beats it, but you can try it as many times as you want. Like, I get that as well, but the idea of doing all of these combination feels like a lot to me. Like, it feels kind of unfocused because of that. I might just be wrong, it might be completely reasonable, but just from the way it sounded, I wasn't totally sure. There's Garden Story, which looks cool, but also looks a lot like multiple other games that already exist. It looks kind of like Stardew Valley, and kind of like Littlewood, and kind of like Forager, and it's kind of an RPG, and it looks neat, it looks cool, but it also looks like a lot of other things that already exist. So I want to see how it's different from everything else. Road 96 has been shown at like every single thing I've seen for years at this point, and I don't think they've shown anything new in ages. They showed some new stuff this time because they like showed off how like specific characters are like acted, and I remember thinking that one of the characters didn't seem all that interesting. Not interesting, I think the performance wasn't great is what I mean. The idea of like going through it and making loads of choices and it all eventually leading in the same place and you just sort of like see how things are different along the way, that's kind of interesting. But I also worry that if they've got so many choices for it to be all so different and they've got like thousands of different endings or some shit, either it's going to be incredibly unfocused or all of the endings are going to end up being incredibly similar. The Wandering Village is a like city building sim on the back of a giant titan. And that sounds cool. I don't really know very much about it besides that, but it looks interesting enough and I like city building games, so I want to play it. Moonglow Bay is a fishing game. And as they said in the thing, there aren't very many fishing games. Well, there are like fishing sims, but you know what I mean. There aren't many games where fishing is the main mechanic. And it just sounds kind of chill. I hope it is. It looks good. Loot River. I kind of feel like it looks really interesting, but I'm also like not totally sure about it. The like moving bits of the world around looks interesting, but can you just like go past all the enemies like that? Is there actually any benefit to fighting the enemies in that way? Or is it better if you like manipulate the world to get away from them at all times? I don't know. Like, it looks interesting, but I'm also like not totally clear on it. So, meh. There's a game called Clawfish, and it's a game where you go fishing in a claw machine. And it just looked interesting just for that sake. I know like basically nothing else about it. I just saw that and I was like, yeah, I want to try that. Oh, it's actually already out. I was just looking it up just to make sure I got the name right, and it turns out it's already out, so I guess I'll try that at some point. It's like £2. There was Somerville, which looks a lot like a Playdead game, but apparently isn't a Playdead game. Oh, so I just had to double check, and the reason it looks like a Playdead game is because it's co-founded by one of the founders of Playdead. So that's probably why. I like the Playdead games. I'm not all that big on Limbo, but I really enjoyed Inside, and this looks a lot like Inside. There was Bear and Breakfast, which was about a bear setting up a bed and breakfast in a forest, and that just looks cute. Like, I just want to try that. There was the Cat Cafe Manager, which is a game about managing a cat cafe. There was Lab Rat, which looked really cool. I don't understand it, but it looked really interesting. It was like a game where you kind of like solving puzzles, and the trailer was like it's generated, like in-game, it's generated by an AI who's like stealing things from all over the place, so the puzzles don't always make sense and they don't always use mechanics that you would expect. Like, it mixes genres to do its puzzles, and it just sounded like a really interesting idea. There's like more games here that I have like less to say about, but I thought looked cool. There was one called Pico, Button City, The Gecko Gods, Loddle Knot, Solstice, Tinykin, Timberborn, Coromon, Unsighted, Minds Beneath Us, Rainbow Billy, The Curse of the Leviathan, and Freshly Frosted. They're all games that at the time I remember thinking, oh yeah, this looks pretty neat, but I don't remember enough about them now. Like, part of the reason I'm doing it like this is because, like, I could go back and watch all the trailers for all these and have more to say about them, which would be perfectly reasonable. But at the same time, I'm trying to like draw attention to the ones that I particularly remember, because that implies to me at least that I care about them enough that I want to. Some of these ones are like ones where it's like, I made a note of them because they looked cool, but I don't remember enough about them now to like actively recommend looking at them. Whereas the ones I've listed already, I'm like pretty confident that I'm going to at least try them out. And the last four. Now these four are actually all games that I've already played, because they all had demos, or in the case of one, like a prequel. And I've done them on the channel over the course of the last few weeks. I will do them in an order. So there's Toem. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, this looks vaguely interesting, I might try it out. And then there was a demo, and I tried the demo, and I was like way more interested in it after the demo. It's a game where you do photography. You get given a camera, you kind of get like sent out on a quest to take a picture of a cool thing. The majority of the game, at least in the demo, seems to actually be about earning bus fare to get to places. And instead of paying money, you do jobs for people in the town, and they give you a stamp, and when you've got enough stamps, you can go to the next place. And it was just really nice. My main issue with it so far is that there was a lot of backtracking. Like, the demo was about 40 minutes long, and a lot of that was just spent going back and forth between the same areas over and over again. I don't know if I can say that it's like a complaint, because in this situation it felt okay, but I feel like especially over the course of an entire game, it's going to get a bit tiring repeatedly walking through the same areas over and over again to do like tiny little jobs. There were like aspects of it that I kind of liked in that situation though. Like there was one in particular where there's a job to get a guy's sock back. He asks you to get his sock back. You go all the way to the end of the map and find out there are ghosts. Then you come all the way back, and it turns out that there's a ghost with a sock. And then that opened up 2 more, because what that did was, the ghost has a sock, and you play a minigame to get the sock off him. So you then get the sock that you need, take it back to the other guy, and get a stamp. But if you go back to the ghost that had the sock, you can play the minigame more times, and if you play the minigame enough times, you get a stamp from there as well. And I like the way that the sort of like, the like tasks can like entwine like that. Like that was kind of cool. And like taking the photographs was nice. There were like a couple of little issues I had where the resolution of the stuff that you were taking a picture of seemed very low. Like specifically of the models. Like the background areas looked fine, but there was one bit where I took a picture of a cow and the cow just seemed really low, like low resolution compared to the rest of the picture. I assume that'll either get fixed or it's intentional. I don't feel like it'd be intentional. I hope it gets fixed. But either way, like I was vaguely interested in the game before I tried it, and I'm much more interested in it now. There is Terra Nil, which is a reverse city building game. You start off with like a destroyed area. You start off with like a wasteland, and your job is to put machines on the wasteland which will encourage growth. So like they'll repair the area, and then you can grow plants on the area, and then you can convert that to like a forest or a wetland. And then once it's covered enough, animals start coming back, and then you have to like clear up your area, so you like destroy all the buildings you've made to let the land reclaim even more, and then you just completely leave and take all of the rubbish away with you, and you're left with like a completely reclaimed area. And it was really fun, and I thought it was really interesting, and my only issue is that I worry that it's going to be quite repetitive. I assume there'll be different environments which will have to be handled in a different way. Maybe it's more the way that it's framed that is the issue. Maybe it's like I'm viewing it as this is going to be a city building game, and it is kind of a city building game, yes, but maybe it's more of a puzzle game. And maybe it'll be more about working out how to do the things in the area you're given, versus building the city, making it work, tearing it down, leaving every time. Like, I know that's going to be like the core aspect of it, but like maybe I'm just viewing it in the wrong way, and that's why I worry that it'll be repetitive. Maybe it's going to like emphasize more on the like, this area has specific challenges you have to overcome, which I assume it will, but you get the point I'm making, I'm sure. I'm definitely going to try it out. Again, like with the full release and everything, and I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that it isn't repetitive, because it looks really interesting, and it's a neat idea. And it was really nice seeing like all the little animals come back. There were a couple of bits I was a bit confused about, which I'm sure they'll probably tweak or fix. The actual weirdest thing I found out was that it's made by the devs of Broforce, which just seems like a weird jump to make. Like, there were a couple of the buildings which didn't quite work in the way that I thought they would. Oh, and that was it. There was one specific thing that I found right at the end of the demo. There's a machine which lets you create new waterways, but you can't create new waterways through a wetland. And that's just really annoying. Like, I don't get why it would be like that. Either the waterway should work through a wetland, or you should be able to create a waterway through a wetland. But the fact that you can't do both is kind of annoying. And like, it wasn't immediately clear that you had to like destroy stuff in like a kind of order. You have to like destroy your old building using like a recycling module, and then you have to recycle the recycling module, and then recycle the recycling module to get it close enough to a river to let the river version of a recycling module recycle the recycling module. And it just seems kind of inconvenient. You have to do it like that because there's a recycling drone which drives around the rivers to collect the recycled material. And I understand, but it just seems like a really weird like choice for me. Like, why don't they just have a flying recycling drone that can pick them up from the faraway ones? Like, it doesn't seem all that useful to me, and not being allowed to have more than one recycling drone seems a bit pointless. There's aspects of it where it's like you have to do things efficiently, and then there's also aspects of it where it's like you can only have one of this thing that weren't entirely clear why. Besides that though, I do think it looks good, and I'm going to get it. There are 2 other games, one of which I am really excited for, so I'm going to leave that for last, and the other one I am incredibly disappointed by, so I'm going to do that now. That game is Lake, which I thought looked pretty neat in the trailers. It's a game where you play a woman who is like a programmer, and then she takes a break and goes back to her hometown and starts delivering the post. And it's just going around and delivering post and talking to the residents of the town, and it looks really neat. It looks really relaxing. I keep saying neat a lot today, don't I? It looks really cool. It looks really relaxing. It looks really nice. It looks like the lake itself is really nice to look at. It looks like it'd be like a really chill time, and then you play it and oh my god, is it bad. I feel bad because I want to play more of it. I really like the idea of it. And in video and in still motion, what the fuck is that? In like pictures, it looks really nice. And then the second you play it, you're like, Jesus Christ, this feels terrible, because the performance is awful. It just stuttered constantly while I was playing. There was like constant loading, like it was constant loading, there was like constant hitching, it was like storing all the time, like it just felt bad. When you see it and it's you deliver the post, you're like, oh, that seems kind of cool. And then you actually get to delivering the post and you're like, Jesus Christ, I hate delivering the post. Because it is kind of relaxing, but at the same time it is literally drive 10 feet, get out, deliver a letter, get back in the car, drive 10 feet, deliver a letter, get back in the car, over and over again. And it's also like quite clear when something's actually going to happen, because it's almost always when you deliver a parcel. When you deliver a parcel, you have a conversation with a person. When you deliver a letter, you probably don't. I think once or twice you deliver a letter and it ends up being a conversation, but that is very rare. Like, granted, I didn't play tons of it. I didn't actually even finish the demo because I couldn't deal with the performance. You can drive the car into the lake and nothing happens, and I was very disappointed by that. I think my favourite part of it was the cat. There's a lot of cats, and there's like a side mission where you take a cat to a vet, and then you pick the cat up and take it back home. The cat was cool. I'm still interested in it, because I like the idea a lot, but the performance was terrible, and it's supposed to come out in 3 months. And it does not feel ready to come out in 3 months. If it is ready to come out in 3 months, it's not that I'll be surprised by that, it's more that I'll be confused why they released this demo, because this demo actively put me off it. I feel though, at the same time, if I had bought the game and it had been like this, I would be even more disappointed, because then I would have spent money on it. As it is right now, I don't think I'm going to buy it. I want to, but I don't think I will. At the very least, I will wait to see actual reviews and see what the performance is like in there, or maybe get it on sale. I'm just like kind of hoping they fix some of the things that I've complained about, because like the performance is just awful. I remember having more issues with it. Like, I remember having issues with the controls. Like, you move very slowly. It's kind of annoying. It's also not always entirely clear exactly where you're going to deliver stuff to. Like, it's just kind of like on the map as this place, and then you go into, especially with a parcel, you go into the back of your van, and the parcels are all numbered, so it says like 101 Lake Drive or some shit, but I think it was 103, but 103 isn't on the map because it's actually the diner, and you can understand through context cues, but why couldn't it just say diner? Like, why couldn't the parcel just say it's for the diner, or why couldn't the diner just say that's what its address is? Like, maybe it does and I missed it. But there were, like, a number of times when I was just, like, a bit confused. And, like, I could kind of guess because I was like, well, this place is clearly interactable or something like that. But especially considering, like I say, it's supposed to come out so soon, it feels kind of bad. And it also turns out that the website says that it was supposed to come out, like, 2 months ago. According to the website, it was supposed to come out in spring, and it's now coming out in... One website says it's coming out in spring. One says it's coming out in autumn. And the game itself says it's coming out on the 1st of September. So, I'm going off what the game says, but I don't honestly know. I feel like it needs more time. and I'm not entirely sure that 2.5 months is the amount of time it needs. The final game, though, is the game that I am probably the most excited about from all of this, and it is a game which I've basically not stopped thinking about in the last week and a half since I saw it. That's Unbeatable, which is a rhythm game, and I'm really bad at rhythm games, but it looks really fucking good. I can't explain. It looks so good, and there is a prequel on Steam, and it is so good, except for when it's broken. I had a lot of trouble getting it running, because I got it up, and I could only use keyboard, and I knew it had controller support, so I had my controller plugged in, but nothing would work. I eventually did try and play it on keyboard, and I think I found a bug in the process. I'm not totally sure if I did it wrong, or it was a bug, but either way, the keyboard controls are terrible. There are people who apparently really like them, apparently including some of the dev team, and I think those people are wrong. Obviously they're not wrong, you're allowed to have your preferences, but the idea that that should be the default seems like a massive mistake for me. It's just awkward, you've got your left hand on some of the keys, and your right hand on others, and it was F and J were up and down, and I can't even remember, but some of the other keys were they're side buttons. Basically, the game only has 2 buttons. There is hit the top row and hit the bottom row, and that's it. But the way it's laid out on the keyboard just made no sense to me, and I kept tripping myself up trying to do it. So eventually I did try and go back to getting a controller working, and it took me 20 minutes, and it turns out it's because the devs said that if you have multiple controllers plugged in, the game can't determine which controller to use for which player, despite only being a single player game. And it's okay, but it doesn't also work just for controllers. So I have a Razer Tartarus, which I use mostly for launching applications, but I also use a lot for editing. I have macros and shortcuts programmed into it to do stuff for editing. When that was plugged in, I could not play Unbeatable with a controller. As soon as I unplugged it, it started working. Apparently it's because the Tartarus comes up as a 360 controller, but I disabled that and the game still would recognise it and predominantly try to use that, but obviously it couldn't use it because the keys are all programmed to do other things, so it just ended up not allowing me to use a controller at all. So I unplugged it, and then I could use a controller, and it was a way better experience. The implementation of rumble that they've got is really nice, where it rumbles with the beat, kind of as a metronome, and it really helps you keep time. The way I had it was the face buttons for the left and right, and the D-pad for up. I'd say left and right, but it's not left and right. There's a kind of weird thing about it where it's split into a grid. Not really a grid, but there's 4 corners. And notes come in any of the 4 corners. But it doesn't actually matter really what they come in. They either come in the top or the bottom, and it doesn't actually matter if they're in the top or the bottom. If you press one of the facepad buttons, it will do either of the bottom ones. And if you press any of the D-pad buttons, it will do either of the top ones. So it doesn't actually matter. I'm not totally sure what the point of it is. I feel like it's kind of nice having the motion, but in terms of the gameplay, it doesn't really seem all that worth it. The main thing that it was doing for me was I was pressing the direction that I would expect the beat to come from. So if it came from my left-hand side, I was pressing square, or if it came from the right-hand side, I was pressing circle, even though it doesn't matter. It does absolutely nothing, but that's what I was doing, because that made sense to me in my head. Besides that, it was just really good. I really like the art style. I like the presentation. I like the way you can talk to the characters. I like the dialogue was not bad, which doesn't sound like much of a compliment, but bad dialogue is so easy. The fact that this was even not bad is good. I enjoyed some of the dialogue, but I've played much more of it without seeing any dialogue since then, so I don't remember much of it. There are these little vignette things between the songs, which I'm not a big fan of. I can understand them as a way of delivering story, but I wasn't super interested. They also felt like they lasted a bit long. It wasn't that they took forever, it was just they lasted a couple of seconds longer than they should have done. It always just felt a little bit on the edge of uncomfortable. There was one scene, there were 2 scenes actually, where one where I got lost in a tiny little gap, and the other where I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do to progress. There's a bit right at the start where you have to walk through a door, and I thought I was walking through the door, but it turns out I just wasn't walking through the door. And I realised that's nothing, but it's just like there was like some issue with the depth where I was supposed to be in front of the door, but I was behind the door and I couldn't tell. It's not that I couldn't tell the difference, it's that I didn't realise which side of the doorway the entrance was on, and it was not clear within the game. So like, that's something I would like tweaked, but like, it's a very minor complaint. There's another section where you're on a train platform, and I'm still not totally sure how that finished. I don't know if it was a time thing. I don't know if I like interacted with something at the correct time, or if it was just that I had to wait long enough. It felt like way too long to wait. Like, besides those two things, and the controller issues have already been over, the game was really good. Like, as I've already said, I am really bad at rhythm games, but I am going to get this, and I am incredibly excited for it. It was so fun, and it just looks really good, and the music is like, not exactly my style, but a hell of a lot closer to my style than a lot of other rhythm games tend to be. Like, a lot of them tend to sort of like skew sort of, not electro, but I can't think what the word is. Like drum and bassy type shit. And like, that's fine, but it's not really my thing. Whereas this is more not that, more like rock music, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I don't really listen to a whole lot of music. I listen to music that came out when I was in high school, or Run the Jewels, and that's about it. But this was good. I enjoyed this a lot. I keep comparing it to Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's obviously not the same in terms of gameplay, and it's got completely different aesthetics, and the music is totally different, but I feel like at the same time that is the most apt comparison. Like, I feel like if you liked that game, you will like Unbeatable, and I loved Sayonara Wild Hearts, so I feel like I'm going to really enjoy this. Like, I don't want people to go in with the expectation of it being that, because it is clearly its own thing, and it's clearly very different. It's not even vaguely similar, if I'm being honest. But there's just like the vibes from it. Like, it's got a really strong aesthetic, and it's got like a clear emphasis on the music, and the gameplay's really good, and it's just like everything I want. I do actually have one other complaint, and that was that during the actual songs, while you're playing them, there is a lot going on, and sometimes it makes it kind of hard to see the notes. It's not really like a film grain. I can't really explain what it is. Like, you can see it in the video that I did anyway, but there's like a sort of, there's like some form of visual effect that like lies on top of the notes. It like is between the screen and the notes, if you kind of understand what I mean, and it can get really distracting, and it sometimes threw me on which note I was getting. And there was also times when like I would misunderstand what note was coming next, because I don't think they're clear enough. I feel like the colours are quite flat, and I feel like they should like pop a bit more. So I can understand why they don't for everything else, but especially for like the notes, I feel like they need to be even clearer distinctions between each type of note. Like, they've already got some, but I'm talking like really minor complaints. Like, I'm really excited for it. I've like barely stopped thinking about it in the pretty much 2 weeks since I saw it. Like, I listened to the soundtrack multiple times. I have been telling everyone else I know to go and play it. I just think it's great. I just think it's really good. And I'm like thoroughly excited to play it. And the prequel is free on Steam, so everyone can go play it. And you should, because it's really good. I think that's pretty much it for my E3 roundup. So outside of E3, I have done stuff this month on my channel. Monster Hunter is going fine. I took almost a 2-week break, which you will not notice at all. I spent a long time hunting a Rathian. I needed 1 Rathian ruby. I hunted 34 Rathians in a row over the course of 12 days, and eventually in the final one got 2. So that was nice, but it took a ridiculous amount of time and actually made me not really want to play the game anymore for a bit. I've got over that now. I'm like back to enjoying it. I think just hunting that one monster so much, and it's like one after the other, like really got to me. As soon as I got past it, everything's fine. You won't even notice that this has happened until like September. But like I said, like in terms of recording, it hasn't really affected me, because I am like, it's what, mid-June? Late June now that I'm recording this, and the episode where I come back after fighting the Rathian for that long is towards the end of August. Like, there's going to be no difference. In fact, it may well be literally a day after the one between which I took a, like, almost 2-week break. It won't affect you at all. Yakuza 0 is still going up. I still finished it ages ago, so there's really not much more for me to give us an update for that. It's fine. The other two things. One, I posted a scripted video last Saturday when this goes up, and it's called I Can't Write, because I find it hard to write. And at the end of that, I say that I'm going to say goodbye to scripted videos for a while, and if that wasn't already clear enough, I'm not doing scripted videos anymore. She's probably not. So, I'm not going to not do any ever. I'm just going to, like, not be, like, trying to force myself to do one each month. For one thing, it's stressing me out a lot, and it stresses me out in such a way that I end up not doing other things. So I end up not only not doing that, I end up not doing other things I want to do. What I'm going to do instead is work on a different project that I can't talk about yet. I'm starting work on basically 2 new projects. One of which you'll see, one of which you won't see. Maybe. I don't even know. But anyway, like, it's stuff that I want to work on. And it means that something had to give, and the scripted videos are the thing that I dislike the most, so that's probably what's going to give. Now, as I've said though, that doesn't mean I'm never going to do a scripted video again. Obviously, the sentences are all going to continue, because I like making those and they're pretty easy. The other thing is that it's less that I am never doing a scripted video, and it is more that I am only going to do a scripted video when I have a clear idea. When I have an incredibly clear idea of what I want to write about, and I can write about it pretty quickly, I will do that one. But I'm not going to be, like, sitting there, like, forcing myself to write about a thing I'm not particularly passionate about, just for the sake of getting a video out. Like, that serves no one. Like, the idea was that I was hoping it would make me better at writing, but I don't think my writing's that bad. It's not great. It's not terrible, though. I think it's more that my writing requires me to be passionate about the subjects I'm talking about. And when I'm not, I feel like that comes across quite obviously. I don't think that's surprising to anyone. So I think I've learned more that I just need to be passionate about the things I write about. So I need to wait to find a topic that I'm passionate about. And the last thing is that, literally as of the day that I'm recording this, I beat Final Fantasy. Hooray! I beat Realm Reborn today, at time of recording, about 7 hours ago. And I've really enjoyed it. There's not really huge amounts I can say, because I've said almost all of it already on the Twitch streams, which you can just go watch. Like, the archives are up on my archive channel, and you can just come watch me live, do it then. I now stream it every day. Well, I say every day, every weekday. Start at 12, end at 3 in the afternoon, not at night. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to playing more. I'm literally going to play more of it tomorrow. I'm almost capped on another class now, so I'm probably going to start playing a rogue this week. In the last month, I have reached cap on Bard, and then within a week after that, almost capped out another class. Like, capping my second class has taken maybe 2 weeks, whereas capping my first class took 3 months. It is kind of ridiculous how big that boost is. I'm going to keep playing. I'm starting working towards Heavenswood now, and it's just going to continue for as long as I can, for as long as I see possible. Also, I have bought the game. I own it now, but I haven't redeemed it. I haven't redeemed it because I still can't really work out a way of affording the monthly cost, but what I can do is play that 30 days as soon as I finish Heavenswood. The thing that I bought came with 33 days. I think that's just normal. The reason I bought it was because it was on sale for like $13.99 for everything. And I was like, well, I can't turn that down, can I? So I bought it. So as soon as I finish Heavenswood, I can redeem that, start playing it, see how far I get within 30 days, and then see if I can work some way out of like paying for my subscription for the next like few months. And then maybe if I'm still playing, or maybe if I've done it by that point, I can do Heavenswood. I can do Endwalker as well. I don't know if I'll be there by that point. Hopefully I will, but I'm not totally sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just going to keep playing. I have this thing where like I worry about getting burnt out on it, and then I play it, and then I don't want to stop playing every time I stop playing, so I feel like I'm in an okay position on it right now. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the channel. Besides that, sentences are continuing, like I said. The podcast will be back next month, like I said. I say like I said, but I never said that was going to stop, you know what I mean. As for the projects I've said, I don't think they will affect anything I make normally. Just hopefully, besides the reduction in scripted videos, like I said, hopefully all you will see eventually is a nice bonus thing that you weren't already expecting. I will talk about one of these projects more in the coming weeks. I just need to actually start working on it properly. I've got foundation sort of laid, and I've not started working on it properly since then. One of the reasons I've not started working on it is because I kind of finished making the foundations as of recording on Monday, and then had to do this podcast as soon as possible. So this month is kind of focus on the podcast, and at the time it was focus on finishing Final Fantasy XIV, which I've now done that, so I'm less worried about that, but it was all focusing on getting my usual stuff out now, and then as soon as that's finished, which should be Friday, I can start working on the other projects that I was talking about, and then see how that affects everything else. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't really think there was anything else I wanted to talk about. Got new glasses. They're okay. That is the entirety of that story. I don't think there's anything else for me to say. So then, special thanks to all my patrons. You can join them over at patreon.com/Holden Gatsby, and for $1 a month you'll get to see what I'm working on early and get exclusive roles in my Discord along with other rewards I might think of. You can also just follow me there if you want to for free, as it's probably the best place to see all of my content as soon as it's available. There's links to the Patreon along with my Discord, Twitter, Twitch, and all the other podcast platforms in the description for this episode. Finally, don't forget you can email me using podencastby@gmail.com if you've got anything you want to say. Thanks for sticking around. Bye. Special thanks to my patrons Heaven Over Hell, Justin Wood, Hobbs, Koopy Vegeta, Gunrunner, Water, and Bad. You can join my patrons at patreon.com/Holden Gatsby, follow me on Twitter @Holden Gatsby, and follow my Twitch at twitch.tv/Holden Gatsby. Don't forget to subscribe to both of my channels. Thanks for watching. Bye.